chosen one. Heaven's war room just opened its doors, and your name is echoing through the corridors of eternity. You didn't stumble here by accident. You were dragged here by divine appointment. The same force that's been whispering your name in the 3 a.m. silence. The same presence that caught your tears before they hit the floor. That same heaven just issued a cease and desist order on your struggle. Listen to me carefully. You came this far because something ancient has been tracking you. Not hunting you down to harm you, but pursuing you to heal you. The exhaustion you've been carrying, that wasn't your burden to bear alone. The fight you've been fighting with trembling hands and a breaking heart, that was never yours to finish. Remember that night 3 weeks ago when you were too tired to even form the words to pray? Remember when you whispered, "God, I can't do this anymore." Heaven heard that. And what you thought was surrender was actually your graduation papers being filed in the courts of glory. Right now, in this exact moment, there's a shift happening in the atmosphere around you. Can you feel it? That weight you've been carrying is starting to lift. Not because you got stronger, but because heaven just stepped into the ring. You've been fighting giants with pebbles. You've been climbing mountains with broken ankles. You've been sailing through storms with torn sails. And still, you kept going. That wasn't human strength, beloved. That was divine DNA flowing through your veins. But the season of you carrying the weight is over. The chapter of struggling alone just ended. Heaven looked at your report card and said, "They've proven their heart. Now I'll prove my power." This isn't your typical Sunday school message. This isn't religious rhetoric. This is a prophetic download straight from the throne room, and it's got your spiritual address written all over it. If you know in your spirit that heaven's been chasing you down with breakthrough, type 777 inch the comments right now. Let that number be your agreement with what's about to unfold. To everyone who's been seeding into this word through prayer, time, or giving, you're not just supporting a message, you're partnering with heaven's delivery system. Your faithfulness is about to echo back to you in ways that'll make you weep with gratitude. Now, breathe deep, stay close, because what you're about to receive isn't just information, it's revelation. And this revelation has the power to rewrite every chapter of your story that the enemy tried to edit. The fight's not over, chosen one. It's just changing hands. Here's what heaven wants you to know. Tell me something. When was the last time someone asked you how you were doing and actually waited for a real answer? When was the last time someone noticed that behind your smile, your soul was screaming? When was the last time anyone saw the weight you've been carrying in silence for months, years, maybe decades? Here's what nobody talks about in church. Here's what the motivational speakers won't tell you. You've been the lighthouse for everyone else, standing tall, shining bright, guiding ships to safety, while you've been drowning in the darkness of your own tower. Alone, unseen, unheard. You've been the strong one so long people forgot you could break. You've been the giver so consistently, they assumed you never needed to receive. You've held up marriages that weren't yours, carried burdens that had other people's names on them, sacrificed your peace to keep everyone else's world from falling apart. The Bible says in Isaiah 43:2, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you." But what it doesn't say is how many times you've passed through those waters carrying someone else on your back. What it doesn't mention is how you've been drowning, while everyone else learned to swim. You've smiled through pain that would have hospitalized others. You've shown up when your own world was collapsing. You've been faithful when faith felt like a foreign language. And what did you get for it? More responsibility, more expectations, more weight. But here's what they couldn't see. Here's what the world missed while they were taking and taking and taking from you. Every tear you swallowed instead of shedding, heaven caught it. Every word you wanted to scream but whispered instead, heaven heard it. Every sacrifice you made in secret, heaven recorded it. Psalm 56:8 says, "You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle." Did you catch that? God doesn't just see your pain, He collects it, He bottles it, He treasures it. Every unnoticed moment of strength, every unacknowledged act of love, every time you chose others over yourself. The weight you've been carrying, it was never yours to bear alone. The pressure you've been under, it was crushing your spirit while building everyone else's dreams. The exhaustion in your bones, that's not weakness, that's proof you've been running on supernatural strength for so long. Your human tank has been empty for miles. But tonight, something shifts. Tonight, the lighthouse keeper gets rescued. Tonight, the weightlifter gets to put down the weights. Tonight, heaven looks at your report card and says, "You've carried enough, you've given enough, you've been strong enough, now let me be strong for you." If you've ever felt unseen by people but you know God saw every moment, every sacrifice, every tear, declare it right now. God saw me when no one else did. Because what's coming next will prove that your hidden faithfulness was never hidden from Him. Chosen one, here's the plot twist that's about to change everything. That season of stillness you've been living in, that forced pause that felt like punishment, that wasn't God putting you in time out. That was God putting you in position. You thought heaven went silent on you. Truth is, heaven was setting the stage for the greatest comeback story ever written. Every closed door, every delayed answer, every moment you felt forgotten, that was divine strategy, not divine abandonment. Listen to this carefully. When a general calls his troops to stand down, it's not because the war is over. It's because reinforcements are about to arrive that will change the entire battlefield. And chosen one, your reinforcements just showed up. God looked at your exhaustion and said, "Enough." He saw you bleeding from battles you never should have fought alone and declared, "My turn. This isn't a rescue mission. This is a takeover." Heaven didn't step in because you failed. Heaven stepped in because you've proven you're ready for what comes next. You want biblical proof? Look at Elijah in 1 Kings 19. This prophet had just called down fire from heaven, defeated 450 false prophets, and proved God's power to an entire nation. Then what happened? He collapsed under a broom tree, begging God to take his life. Why? Because the weight of carrying God's assignment had drained him to his core. But here's what's powerful. God didn't lecture Elijah about his faith. He didn't remind him of past victories. Instead, an angel brought him food and said, "The journey ahead is too much for you." God gave him rest, refreshment, and renewal because he knew what was coming required more than human strength. Do you see what's happening here? Elijah's breakdown wasn't his disqualification, it was his preparation for his next assignment. The same way your weariness isn't evidence that you've lost favor. It's evidence that God is about to upgrade your assignment, and He refuses to send you in unprepared. Here's the shocking truth they don't teach in Sunday school. Sometimes God will exhaust you on purpose. He'll allow you to reach the end of your rope so you'll finally let go and grab onto His. Because the breakthrough He's prepared for you is too big for your strength alone. You've been asking God, "Why did you let this happen to me?" Wrong question. The right question is, what are you preparing me for? That requires this level of emptying. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there's a shift happening in your spirit. You can feel it, can't you? That's not emotion, that's revelation breaking through years of confusion. Heaven just handed you the missing piece of your puzzle. If you're ready to stop carrying what God never asked you to hold, if you're ready to let the Creator of the universe finish what He started in your life, type "Take it, Lord" in the comments and mean it with every fiber of your being. Because what happens next isn't just about your relief, it's about your assignment. God didn't preserve you through all of this just to give you a comfortable retirement. He preserved you because your greatest chapter is about to begin. Listen to me, chosen one. The world has been lying to you about rest. They've poisoned your mind with the mythology of the grind. They've convinced you that exhaustion is nobility, that burnout is a badge of honor, that if you're not bleeding from effort, you're not worthy of breakthrough. But heaven just called that philosophy straight from the pit of hell. Jesus Christ himself, the Son of the living God, was asleep in a boat while a storm tried to kill his disciples. Not because he didn't care, not because he was lazy, but because he understood something that will revolutionize your warfare. True power rests in the confidence of knowing who's really in control. Every time you rest in God, you're not waving a white flag of surrender. You're raising a declaration of war against every demonic force that wants to exhaust you into defeat. Rest is not giving up. Rest is getting up on a spiritual level that your enemies cannot reach. Rest is not retreat. Rest is the reload. Rest is not weakness. Rest is the weapon they never saw coming. Rest is not passive. Rest is the most aggressive act of faith you can demonstrate. Think about this. When you're running yourself ragged, when you're operating on 3 hours of sleep and anxiety for breakfast, when you're so drained that you can barely think straight, who benefits from that? God, or the kingdom of darkness that thrives on your spiritual depletion? The enemy wants you tired because tired believers make desperate decisions. He wants you drained because drained believers stop praying with authority. He wants you running on empty because empty vessels can't pour out power. But when you rest in God, truly rest with kingdom confidence, you're telling every force of hell, I'm so sure of my Father's power that I can sleep while my battles rage. I'm so confident in divine intervention that I don't need to stay awake to manage outcomes I was never meant to control. This is why Psalm 127:2 declares, He gives sleep to His beloved, not as a reward for good behavior, but as a weapon against spiritual warfare. Your rest becomes your resistance. Your peace becomes your power. David could sleep in the valley of the shadow of death, not because he was naive, but because he knew his shepherd was awake. Jesus could sleep through a storm not because he was tired, but because he had authority over the wind and waves. Right now, as I speak these words, some of you are carrying weight that's making your shoulders ache. You're fighting battles with your last ounce of strength, wondering how long you can keep this up. And God is saying, Child, put down the sword. The King has arrived to finish what you started. Your warfare is transitioning from effort to trust, from grinding to gliding, from pushing to positioning. But here's the question that's going to determine your next level of breakthrough. Will you trust God enough to rest while He works, or will you exhaust yourself trying to help Him do what only He can do? You want to know the exact moment God stops being your co-pilot and becomes your commander-in-chief. It's happening right now. While you've been exhausting yourself trying to part your own Red Sea, heaven has been positioning chariots you can't even see. Listen to me, chosen one. Exodus 14:14 isn't a suggestion, it's a divine decree. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. But here's what nobody tells you about that verse. It was spoken to people who were about to die. Israel stood trapped between Pharaoh's army thundering behind them and an impossible sea stretching before them. Sound familiar? You've been standing at your own Red Sea for months, haven't you? Behind you, the enemy of depression, financial pressure, broken relationships, health scares, all charging toward you like Pharaoh's chariots. In front of you, an ocean of impossibility that logic says will never part. And you've been standing there with a stick in your hand, wondering why you can't make the water move. But Moses didn't part that sea. His stick didn't split those waters. God did. And the moment Moses stopped trying to figure it out and started trusting heaven's timing, that's when the impossible became inevitable. Your sea is about to split, beloved. Not because you found the right formula or prayed the perfect prayer, but because heaven just issued an executive order with your name on it. The same God who told Moses to stretch out his hand is telling you to step back so he can step forward. Here's what's crushing you right now. You've been carrying the weight of outcomes that were never yours to control. You've been trying to force doors that only heaven has the key to. You've been fighting battles with weapons the enemy isn't afraid of: your worry, your hustle, your sleepless nights of planning. But when God fights for you, the enemy doesn't just retreat, he runs. When heaven takes over your case, the verdict isn't delayed, it's decided. When the Almighty steps into your situation, impossibility doesn't just bend, it breaks. Right now, there's a courtroom session happening in heaven with your name on the docket. The gavel is about to slam down, and every force that's been working against you is about to receive a divine restraining order. Your breakthrough isn't coming, it's been signed, sealed, and is being delivered by angelic express. You've done all you can. You've fought until your knuckles bled. You've prayed until your voice cracked. You've believed until your faith felt paper thin. And heaven has been watching, taking notes, building a case for your victory. The outcome is officially out of your hands and into his. This isn't surrender, this is strategy. This isn't giving up, this is growing up. Because mature faith knows when to step back so God can step forward. If you're ready for heaven to fight for you, if you're ready to stop being the general and start being the beneficiary, comment, "I step back," so he can step forward. Let that declaration echo in the spirit realm, because what happens next isn't just about you winning your battle. It's about God proving to every watching demon that his children are untouchable when he decides to move. Chosen one, this is the moment everything changes. Right here, right now, we're going to perform the most sacred transaction your soul has ever witnessed, and the enemy is terrified you'll actually do it. Listen carefully. For too long, you've been carrying baggage that has your fingerprints on it, but God's name written on the shipping label. You've been lugging around burdens that were never meant for your shoulders. And every time you try to set them down, something whispers, "Pick it back up. You're the only one who can handle this." That whisper, that's not wisdom, that's warfare. Here's what's about to happen. I'm going to teach you the sacred art of spiritual transfer, not the theory of it, the actual practice of it. Because there's a difference between knowing about surrender and actually surrendering. First, I need you to physically open your hands right now. Yes, right now. Don't just think about it, do it. Open your palms toward heaven like you're holding something precious that you're about to place into the safest hands in the universe. Feel that? That's the posture of release. That's what faith looks like when it stops talking and starts trusting. Now, here's where most people sabotage themselves. They open their hands for 3 seconds, then clench them back into fists. They pray a prayer of surrender on Sunday, then spend Monday through Saturday trying to fix what they just gave to God. But Moses didn't part the Red Sea by grabbing the water. Elijah didn't call down fire by striking the match himself. They opened their hands, they spoke their faith, then they stepped back and let heaven handle what heaven handles best. So speak it out loud right now. Say, "God, I place this burden, this financial pressure, this relationship chaos, this health crisis, this family drama. I place it into your hands. It's yours now, not mine." Did you say it? Because the atmosphere around you just shifted. Something in the spirit realm just changed hands. But here comes the test. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up and that familiar anxiety starts creeping back in, when your mind starts rehearsing worst-case scenarios, when your flesh starts whispering, "You need to fix this yourself," that's when you'll discover if you really meant what you just prayed. The enemy's favorite trick is the take-back. He waits until you've given your burden to God, then he whispers, But what if God doesn't handle it the way you would? What if he's too slow? What if he forgets? Don't fall for it. Every time that voice tries to hand your burden back to you, you say this: I already gave this to God. It's not mine anymore. Release it. Don't take it back. Release it. Don't take it back. Let that become your new rhythm, your new heartbeat, your new spiritual DNA. Because here's what I know about you. You're tired of carrying what was never yours to carry. You're exhausted from fighting battles that belong to someone infinitely stronger than you. But the question that will determine your next season is this: will you trust God's hands more than your own? But chosen one, I need you to understand something that will crack your heart wide open. When God says, I'll take it from here, this isn't some cold cosmic intervention. This isn't the Almighty flexing his muscles just to show off his power. This is love in action. Listen to these words from 1 Peter 5-7. Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. Did you catch that? Not because he can handle it, though he absolutely can. Not because he's obligated to, though his faithfulness never wavers. But because he cares for you. That word cares in the original Greek means to be personally invested, to have your heart wrapped up in someone's well-being. It's the same word used to describe a mother nursing her baby. It's tender, it's intimate, it's fierce. God isn't stepping into your storm because you failed him. He's stepping in because you are his. You're not a project to him. You're not a burden he's forced to carry. You're his beloved child, and he's watched you struggle long enough. Picture this. You're drowning in flood waters, gasping for air, your strength completely gone. Suddenly, strong arms pull you out. You feel yourself being lifted, wrapped in warmth, held close to a beating heart. That's not rescue. That's relationship. That's a father who couldn't stand to watch his child suffer another second. How many nights have you laid awake wondering if God sees your pain? How many tears have you cried thinking maybe you're too broken for his attention? How many times have you whispered, does he even care anymore? The answer is thundering from heaven right now. I care so much it moves me to action. Your exhaustion doesn't annoy him, it activates him. Your weakness doesn't disappoint him, it draws him closer. Your desperate cries don't fall on deaf ears. They mobilize the armies of heaven on your behalf. When Jesus wept at Lazarus's tomb, it wasn't because he couldn't raise the dead. He had the power all along. He wept because he felt the weight of human pain. He wept because love compelled him to enter into our suffering before he demonstrated his power. That's exactly what's happening in your life right now. God sees you there, battle-scarred and weary, still trying to fight with trembling hands, and his heart breaks. Not with disappointment, but with compassion. He's not waiting for you to get stronger. He's stepping in while you're still weak, because that's when his strength shines brightest. This divine takeover isn't about proving his might. It's about proving his love. He's not taking over to show the world what he can do. He's taking over to show you how much you mean to him. So when that breakthrough comes, and it's coming, remember this wasn't just divine intervention. This was divine affection, wrapped in miraculous power. But there's something else heaven wants you to know about this takeover. Something that will change how you see every closed door and delayed answer. Chosen one, what if I told you that the silence you've been cursing was actually heaven's delivery room? While you've been pacing the floors of worry, convinced God had forgotten your address, there's been something extraordinary happening behind the curtain of eternity. You see, when a woman is in labor, there's a sacred quiet that falls over the delivery room. The midwives work in hushed whispers. The doctors move with precise, silent urgency. And everyone knows something magnificent is about to be born. That's exactly where you've been living, beloved. In heaven's delivery room. Psalm 121:4 declares, "He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." While you were tossing and turning at 2 a.m., questioning if your prayers were bouncing off the ceiling, God was wide awake. He wasn't sleeping, he wasn't distracted. He was working, meticulously, strategically, preparing something so beautiful that it required absolute silence to craft. You thought the silence was abandonment. It was incubation. You thought the delays were denials. They were divine timing. You thought the doors closing meant you were forgotten. They meant you were being repositioned for something that required a specific entrance. Listen to me carefully. Every night you cried yourself to sleep. Heaven's construction crew was working overtime. Every morning you woke up wondering if today would finally be the day. Angels were putting finishing touches on blueprints you couldn't see. Every time you whispered, "How much longer, God?" He was whispering back to his team, "Almost ready. Just a little more time to make it perfect." The enemy wanted you to believe that silence meant absence. But heaven's greatest work has always been done in the quiet. Creation itself began in the void. Life begins in the darkness of the womb. Resurrections happen in sealed tombs. And your breakthrough has been forming in the sacred silence you've been fighting against. But here's what's about to shatter everything you thought you knew about waiting. The contractions you've been feeling, the pressure, the discomfort, the sense that something's got to give. Those weren't signs of breakdown. Those were labor pains. Your breakthrough is crowning. And when it arrives, every person who watched you struggle is going to witness something they can't explain, can't duplicate, and can't deny. They're going to see the fingerprints of the Almighty all over your story. They're going to know that what happened to you didn't come from luck, timing, or human effort. It came from the God who works while his children sleep. The midwives are about to pull back the curtain. The silence is about to break open with announcements. What you've been carrying in secret prayer is about to be delivered in public testimony. Are you ready to see what he's been building while you thought he was sleeping? Because what's coming next will make sense of every tear, every delay, every moment you almost gave up.